Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. All right, grandson playtime. He's 20 months old. Loves a truck. Absolutely can pick out a dump truck from anything else on the road. Loves to play with trucks. He loves the idea of doing anything that he sees someone older do. And that's the way kids play. And I think back about the times of Paul when he was growing up, and Jesus and others. And they didn't have probably Tonka trucks to play with, but they no doubt played with the same idea that you see the adults do things and you play as best as you can. Now, why is this important? Well, a lot of people grow up appreciating athletic competitions. And while today it might be basketball or football or baseball, in the time of Jesus, there were, and Paul and in the New Testament, there were athletic contests that were being done all the time. Races that were ran, or chariot races were also a type of competition. There were boxing matches. There were all sorts of physical feats that people competed against each other in. And if they won, they got not a trophy, not a medal, but in Greek, a Stephanos, a crown. Now, don't think like a king of some castle crown. Think about a wreath that was formed by branches and some type of foliage, and that was the winning award. Now, you can see kids playing this growing up. And who wins the race? And they can go out there and they can grab grapevines or something else, and they can make a wreath. They can grab olive trees and cut off a branch or break off a branch, and they can make a wreath, and they would no doubt play with those wreaths as kids, trying to figure out who won. It makes it a marvelous expression for Paul, and it's one that he would use quite frequently. And this week I'm looking at crowns as they're used biblically. And I want to talk about one today, 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Now in verse 24, Paul talks about how lots of people may run a race, but only one receives the brabaion. The brabeos was a reward. Okay, only one receives an award. Then in verse 25, he says, so we need to pay attention so that we receive the crown, because we're going for a crown that's not perishable. The people who compete in races just outside, they get a crown, but it's made out of, branches that will perish. But in our race, we're after one that God gives a reward, an honor, a victor's crown that we get at the end of the race. Paul says it this way in 2 Timothy 4:8. He said, verse 7 starts with, I've fought the good fight, I've kept the faith, or finished the race, I've kept the faith. Then he says, therefore there's laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the righteous judge, God, the righteous judge, will give me on that day. And not just me, but everybody who has finished their race in Christ. And I love this because Paul's talking about the reward that comes to those who run this race, who live this life under the lordship of Christ. Now, let me tell you how this applies to me. I want to run this race. I want to run it with the strength of God. I want to run this race well. I want to finish this life well. I want people to say, he kept the faith. He ran. When others might tire, he kept going by the strength of God. I want people to say that. But in spite of all that I want, I'm pretty miserable at doing some things that I need to do. There are things I need to do, ways I need to show love, ways I need to show service, ways I need to show caring, that I'm just not measuring up the way I should. There are ways that I need to not do things, whether it's gossip, whether it's boast, whether it's envy, whether it's whatever it may be. And I don't always achieve what I'd like. Yet, I've been promised by God that there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness. That Greek word there, dikaiosune, means not just that I'll be made right where I'll do right, but there will be a time where God, the judge, has put an award on my head that says not guilty. And I know biblically he does that because Christ has paid the price for my inadequacies, my errors. I love the idea of being a kid in the kingdom, but knowing I'm not playing for a truck. I'm playing for God's reward at the end of the day, which is one of making me okay, righteous, to live in his righteous kingdom forever. That reward, that crown, we're all promised. So let's run this race with endurance. Let's fight the good fight. Let's keep the faith. And we'll both get those crowns together. More to come tomorrow.